Guys, Netflix is officially using AI to produce movies, but nobody's talking about this. I do not see how this isn't the biggest news on the internet right now. In the Netflix Q2 earning call, co-CEO Ted Sarandos revealed that a VFX scene in The Eternaut was produced using AI. And nobody's talking about this. I don't see how this isn't huge. This is the crossing of the Rubicon when it comes to video production. Today we're going to talk about exactly what happened, what the projected impact is from a financial standpoint. Because, I mean, for investing, for creative, huge. We're also going to talk about job implications, and we're going to finalize it by talking about how you can kind of prepare and what are some ways we can take advantage of this opportunity. And I mean, if you're someone like me who's been waiting for Stranger Things to come out for like the last 5 years, it feels like, I could use a little bit of AI VFX in my life because I'm ready for that show. Anyway, let's get into the details because this is crazy. So Ted says that the scene was created 10 times faster and at a significantly lower cost than traditional VFX methods. Now, he didn't specify the exact cost, but there's some ways of calculating how much was actually saved. 10 times faster is pretty freaking quick, guys. Pretty freaking quick. He said that it would not have been feasible for a show in that budget to create. And he said that AI represents an incredible opportunity to help creators make films and series better, not just cheaper, which I think is interesting because I was checking out a graph the other day and the share, get this, the share of viewing time by each distributor is pretty shocking. Netflix is at about 7% of viewer watch time, while YouTube is almost double that at nearly 13% of viewer streaming time, which tells me, and one of the reasons I love YouTube is everyday people like you and me can go out and create. And leveraging AI for that is gonna be insane. It's gonna lead to a lot of job loss, but it's gonna lead to perhaps a creativity moment in humanity similar to the Enlightenment. I mean, we're just gonna see creativity explode in ways that were maybe not possible. But again, if you're working in a job, that's pretty scary because your job is big time at risk. And again, we're gonna talk about that in just a moment. So these effects were used and created by Eyeline Studios. That's Netflix's internal creative team, along with several Argentinian creatives. So Netflix is already going deep, and please believe, if Netflix is using this technology, so is Amazon, so is Disney Plus. It doesn't end there though. We're going to talk about, there's so much to go through in this. It's really insane. But we're going to talk about some other ways that they're using this. Sarandos did emphasize that it's an enhancement tool. It's not going to replace artists, but it's going to empower them. And it's going to enhance creative scope without inflating budgets. And while I do agree that it's going to lead to a boom, like an enlightenment, it is going to put many jobs at risk. Many jobs going on the line. I was actually talking to my neighbor just yesterday. He works for a very large software company. If I said the name of the company, you would know it immediately. And he's been in IT, and he's just telling me that, you know, he has many friends in the space that have been laid off recently, or even within the last 2 years. He said they can't find jobs right now. It's too hard to find jobs. And I mean, those are guys that have been in IT for a long time. But if you're like fresh out of college, it's even worse. It's even worse because why am I going to hire a college kid when I can just give AI to someone on my team to produce? In fact, I recorded an entire video on this because the numbers are staggering. I'll put a link to the video there that just goes through, is college necessary for success? And quite frankly, should you even go to college? Should you send your kids to college? I'll put the video up there because I think it's really, really fascinating what's happening with the way that university systems work. But get this, guys, the AI is not just used for VFX. It's being used in interactive storytelling, metadata generation, personalized engines. It's being used in dubbing, CGI, pre-production processes. I think, you know, the dubbing is really something. People like Mr. Beast, when they produce a video for YouTube, they are doing they're changing the language to maybe 170 different languages and then producing the same video. So not only is he getting 100 million views on one video, multiply that by 170, because he's starting to he gets views everywhere. And that's one of the ways, maybe not quite 70, but he's just getting so many views on videos using these dubbing tools. And in the past, you know, you watch a movie and when their mouth moves, the voice doesn't sound the same and it sounds like crap. AI just takes that to the whole next, it just is gonna look and sound so much better because you can change the way that a person's mouth is moving instantly using AI, and you can mimic their voice a lot easier. It's not being read through by someone that doesn't even sound like the actual actor, actress, etc. So that's a big deal. Big deal. But let's talk numbers. Let's talk turkey. It's all good to speculate over the creative process, but I think it's good to talk numbers. And I was doing some math to try to calculate how much this was saving based on what Ted Sarandos was saying. So here's the deal, guys. A major film studio averages about $65 to $100 million on production costs, okay? And blockbusters like Deadpool and Wolverine are gonna be closer to 200 to 400 million. In any event, the VFX budget is about 20 to 50% of that total cost. So you're looking at anywhere from 13 to 50 million, even larger for a blockbuster. It's a big portion of the cost. Again, this is probably why we're still waiting for Stranger Things. Like, come on, man, I'm ready for that show. Bring it back to the 80s, right? You with me? Yeah. In any event, the VFX is a major part of that budget. It's very expensive. It's very labor intensive. And if AI, and the estimated reduction is about 30 to 50% of the VFX cost is going to be saved by using AI. And an average project savings of 15 to 20% of your total cost. That's millions, tens of millions of dollars in savings in production costs. So as John said, the projects, the scope, the visuals that wouldn't have been possible in the past are now all of a sudden going to be possible. So an insane creative boom for some, and a pretty rough job market for others. If I had to predict, you're looking, and let's assume there's 250 projects annually. That's about how many projects go out now, about 250 projects. That's about an 8.5 billion in savings. 8.5 billion in industry savings. And I mean, that's not going to stop. I'm not going to predict where it's going to be in 2030, but it's going to be an insane amount of savings. And my guess here, if I had to estimate, is that because of the reduction in savings, because of how much more accessible it's going to be to create content and create these insanely immense scenes, you're going to see this bump from 250 projects annually to 1,000 to 2,000 projects annually, because they're saving so much. They're able to create so much more entertainment, which, by the way, guys, this is not a time to be sucked up in entertainment. This is a time to learn, to be aware, to invest, to make moves, to own equity, to make bets, to take risks. You know, I don't want to say this is a financial advice, but to me, this is a time to, you know, have some ownership in stuff. So there's about 50K to 100K in the global VFX workforce. All of them are going to be interrupted. Every single one of them are going to see job shifts. And we don't know exactly how that's going to look like. John seems to think this is going to be a creative boom. But, you know, like I was saying when I was talking to my neighbor, he's saying that, you know, people are much more replaceable now, because you could have one person at the top of an organization or one VFX guy who's just very talented, and he's going to be able to pump out all the VFX for a $200 million film in a couple days. So there's no more like months and months of work, hundreds and hundreds of people working on a project. You might have a dozen. It doesn't stop there though, guys, because AI is impacting these streaming platforms in a lot of different ways. It's estimated that because of the advanced AI recommendation engine, it's saving probably about $1 billion in reduced churn. They're using AI for ad optimization at different ad tiers. By the way, this is something that I think is really interesting. Even just this morning, as I was getting prepared for this video and doing research, I got served up an ad from Facebook that was AI generated. It was obvious to me it was AI generated just because you can kind of tell. This was likely done with Google VO3, and they used an ad for the hook. One of the creators I follow, Alaric Heck, marketing agency, it's kind of hard to tell with marketers what's legit and what's smoke, but he's saying that he's using ad creative for YouTube ads, and he's seeing a marked advancement there. And then I recorded a video. I'll put a link to it up here. Ad creative on platforms like Facebook are going to change dramatically. Zuckerberg announced that he's got plans to have fully creative AI engines on their marketing platforms. So what does that mean? Well, you're not going to have to hire a marketing agency to create your ad creative. You're just going to go into Facebook. You're going to tell it what you want, who you're trying to target, what your offer is, etc. And then Facebook will create all sorts of creative ad content to serve up to customers and prospects and leads. In fact, it could be dynamic. So those ads could change dramatically. If I was trying to serve an ad to somebody living in the great state of Florida, for example, it might look sunny, it might look tropical, it might be blue skies, it might be beautiful, people might be riding alligators. If I was serving up the same ad in New York, it could be a completely different environment. You could even change it by dialect, by voice. I'm getting a little bit off track here, but the marketing world is going to change dramatically too with this AI technology, making it so much easier to create video. It just really changes everything. Amazon is already using AI for dubbing. Disney Plus is using AI for animation and script analysis. I mean, if we had to look at the numbers, we're estimating about 77% of productions already use AI with a nearly 75% cost savings, and rough estimate, up to 75% of the VFX jobs could vanish. And if you're looking at, let's say, 100,000 people in the work, that's 75,000 VFX workers that are looking for a job. Maybe they go to McDonald's to find a job. The only problem is that robots are going to be working at McDonald's now too. So, or maybe they could drive for Uber. Well, you can't do that because within the next 5 years, those are all going to be driven by autonomous vehicles and delivered to people's doorsteps by robots. So you can't do that. I don't know what you're going to do. Again, you want to own some skin in the game. And quite frankly, if you're a creative person, you're not going to want to be taking a job like that anyway. You're going to want to find a way to remain creative. And again, we're in a boom right now. I think that what I think is that we're in a phase of humanity, and this is kind of where we're moving into now, into this video is like, well, what do we do? How do we prepare? I think we're moving to a phase of humanity where you don't really want to be caught as an employee at a company. You want to have your hands in different projects, and you want to own stake and equity in different projects and different companies. Because if you're a creative person, and let's say you do VFX, for example, well, maybe instead of getting paid for one big project, maybe you're working 3 projects a year. Maybe instead of working on 3 to 4 projects, you're able to work on 25 projects, and you're able to take some equity or some royalty stake. Because what I would see, because right now what's going to happen is there's going to be an insane amount of supply in the market. The amount of entertainment that's going to be possible to watch, and we're just talking over the next 12 to 24 months, the amount of content that's going to come out is going to explode. Okay, and we're not just talking about major movie studios. Guys, you're not going to need to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to produce movies anymore. Everyday people like you and me are going to be able to produce insanely interesting, entertaining content just on YouTube. And what does that mean? Well, if you're like even a boutique agency, or maybe you're a freelancer who does VFX effects, if you're good with VO3, if you're good with Kling, if you're good with Runway ML, these are all AI video creation softwares, which, by the way, you could try Google VO3 for free today. You can try it for free. I made some videos, and it's pretty nuts what you're able to do with just a few words. In any event, instead of maybe working on 4 videos per year, you're teaming up with YouTube creators, and you're getting a piece of stake in these videos. And if one of these movies blows up, it doesn't take much, guys. It doesn't take much. You know, you're putting chips down all over the table and just waiting for something big to blow. Because I think it's very risky not to take risk right now, because the world is changing so rapidly. And if you're putting all your chips on black, for example, and when the roulette wheel is done spinning, it lands on red, you're in big trouble. So, I mean, I think we're in a day and age where if you're in VFX, if you're in video creation, if you're doing any sort of, if you're in the entertainment world and you're not using these AI tools, you're at a significant risk. You know, the other side of this coin is, well, let's just ban it altogether. And the unions like SAG-AFTRA, and that's more of a writers guild, but these unions are coming together to try to just stop this from happening altogether. I think that's a very bad way of going about it, because again, what's going to end up happening is small forces that are working on YouTube videos, for example, which, by the way, as I mentioned earlier, takes up a larger portion of viewer watch time than even platforms like Disney Plus or Netflix, almost double the viewership streaming time of Netflix. So I just think that what's going to happen on YouTube and creative is going to be huge. So you want to diversify, you want to get out from just creating a few films per year. You need to expand out. And again, owning equity. And then lastly, having a redefined skill set, updating your skill set, because the traditional VFX roles are going to be reduced, but there's a massive opportunity in AI-aided pre-production oversight, creative direction. I mean, this is a hard thing for a creative person to do as well, but you know, maybe instead of being the guy that's told what to do, you're the guy that creates. And this is another thing that's going to happen. You're going to be creating maybe hundreds of pieces of creative for one scene, and you pick the best one and iterate down from there. But knowing how to put pieces together, I think, is going to be really important. And this is what another thing I was talking to my neighbor about. You know, when I take on a consulting client for, let's say, a marketing project or an ad project, I'm not the one who's executing on a lot of this stuff. I'm putting pieces together. I'm looking at the big picture. So I'll have someone put together the funnel, the copywriting, which AI plays a big part in. I have a guy that I use for media buying on Facebook ads and Google ads. I have video editors, I have graphic editors. I have all these different people that I can kind of pluck either through Fiverr, or that I've worked with in the past. And so I think starting to think about the world that way is a good way to go. Regardless, it's very clear the world is changing. AI video is going to transform everything. As you can see with Netflix and the Eternaut, it's already happening. And this is the crossing of the Rubicon. This is the dam is about to break, boys. And you may be a creative person. I talked about this when it comes to music a few weeks ago. I'll put a link to that video up here, because I thought it's insane what's happening with music. One of the biggest bands in the world right now is actually not even real. It's just AI generated. And you can create music on Suno.ai for free. And it's pretty freaking good. Pretty freaking good. And it's only gonna get better. I mean, I could just go on and on about all these videos, all this stuff that I've covered here on the channel. It's really, really insane. And I'll give you one more video here as I close this down. This is yesterday's video where I talk about AI avatars taking over huge portions. There are hundreds of millions of people engaging with AI avatars for intimate relationships. And this is a big problem for us as men for many reasons. I'll talk about that in yesterday's video. It's reached thousands and thousands of people already. You definitely want to check that out. In the meantime, don't stop upskilling. Now's the time to put stake in the game, to build your skill set, to build equity, to take some risks, and make sure that you're not just sitting on the sidelines and renting land and renting opportunities and waiting for your boss to lay you off. but you're actually putting equity and diversifying your income streams. At least that's what I'm doing. All right, I'll catch you next video, boys. Peace.